guys, good morning. Sam here. I hope you guys are having a great morning. As scheduled, we are going to have a live session today where I teach you about some expressions. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope that you guys find these sessions useful. I'm going to explain the format of the session at the beginning, and then we can get started. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm planning on teaching you guys some useful everyday common expressions that you can use in your speaking mostly, but a little bit for writing as well. I'll mention the expressions that you can use in writing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off comments when I get started. If you have any questions during the session, go ahead and write down your questions. And then after each section, I'm going to turn on comments and I'm going to ask you guys if you have any questions. And once I answer the questions, I'm going to go into the next session, turn off the comments again, and have some time for the next question session. Thank you guys for joining me live right now. Good morning to all of you. I hope you guys have had breakfast and you're ready to go. If you have a notebook handy, that will be really good because I am going to talk about some different expressions and you might want to take some notes. I'm going to give you at least 10 expressions in each section. And I'm going to start from A to Z. So, I'm going to start with the topics that start with A, and then we're going to make all the way go to Z, depending on how much time we have. Obviously, today we're probably just going to do A's. But depending on how much time we have, we're going to work through these on these free sessions that we're putting on live. I'm going to try to work through as many of them as I can. Okay, so I'm going to turn off comments right now. And if you guys have any questions, I'm going to turn it on after I finish this first little bit. Okay, see you guys in a little bit. Turning off comments. All right. So the first section for our useful everyday expressions is for apologizing. Now, we all make mistakes, and sometimes when we don't want people to get angry at us or when we want to express regret for our mistakes, we have to apologize to people, okay? And these are expressions that we use in everyday life to apologize. The first one, and the very obvious one, is sorry. This is one that you guys already all know. The problem with just saying sorry is that it's very general, short apology, and this is something we usually use if we bump into somebody in the street. If you're walking in the street and you accidentally, hit somebody, or if they hit you, you just say sorry and you move on. But saying sorry isn't enough for more personal things because it doesn't sound sincere. It sounds too weak, right? So what I'm going to teach you now is more expressions that we use instead of just saying sorry. For example, if we want to express a deeper regret, we can say, I'm so sorry, or I'm very sorry, or I'm terribly sorry. Adding these kind of adjectives before sorry, it shows that we're not just saying sorry, we're actually regretful, okay? So we can use this to make the meaning of sorry stronger. With the words I just used, terribly is the strongest, okay? So if you are really regretful for doing something, you can say, I am terribly sorry. If you just, want to emphasize being sorry, you say, I'm so sorry, or I'm very sorry, okay? You can use these in everyday conversations. A lot of times we do something by mistake and we just want to say, oh, I'm sorry for doing that. We say, I'm really sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm so sorry. The next expression for expressing regret is ever so sorry. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard this expression before or not. This is a really formal expression. This is one of those things you can use in your writing as well. So I'm ever so sorry is a very formal way of apologizing for something. And you can use this if you're planning on doing an IELTS exam. For those of you guys who are planning on doing general and you're planning on apologizing, you can use this even in your writing. You can say, I am ever so sorry for being noisy last night. You know, if you're apologizing to your neighbors and you want to be very formal about it. Just a note about being formal and informal. Usually when I talk about being formal, it means, you know, the kind of language you would use at work. Or if you want to be polite, the kind of language you write with is formal. Informal is when you're with your friends, when you're with your family, just in general in everyday speaking life, okay? So the next one, and this is a good one for those of you who are married, learn these expressions. So this one, these ones, we use them when we want to criticize ourselves and the mistake we made. So we say, you know, how stupid of me, or how careless of me, how thoughtless of me, okay? So when you do something that you find out is wrong, for example, if you're supposed to pick up your wife at 10 o'clock, but you get there at 10:05, you know, and you say it was how careless of me not to take traffic into consideration. How stupid of me to leave last minute, right? You apologize by saying it was really, you criticize what you did yourself. So it was, it wasn't a good idea what I did. I was being careless or thoughtless, okay? This is a really good way of, if you did something that you regret, if you did something that you didn't think about first, this is a really good way of, you know, expressing that, saying that, I didn't think about this, so you know, you're in a way you're apologizing indirectly by just criticizing your own actions. Okay, very good for keeping a healthy relationship. You know, admit you're wrong. It's a really good way of doing it. The next one is a really formal way of saying sorry. It's when you use pardon me. Pardon me is very similar to excuse me. You know, it's a very formal, polite way of saying you're sorry about something or asking for forgiveness. So, for example, if somebody is talking and you want to talk, you want to talk before they're done, you can say, pardon my interruption, okay? Pardon my interruption. Or, for example, if you're walking in the sidewalks and somebody is walking ahead of you and you want to pass them, pardon me, may I pass? It's very much like using excuse me, right? In any of these situations, you could also use excuse me. It's very formal. It is very polite. So if you're in a situation, if you want to talk to somebody you don't know, a stranger, and you want to be polite, or if you're at work, or if you're talking to your grandparents or something like that where you want to be very polite, you can use pardon me. Pardon me is a very good expression to use. You can also use it in your writing because this word pardon is actually a very meaningful word, and you can use it in writing if you're writing like a letter or something like that, okay? Next one is similar to the one before pardon me. This is again good for those of you who want to keep a healthy relationship. It's when you say you're sorry by admitting you're at fault, okay? So you say, it's my fault. Or you say, sorry, it was all my fault. What you're doing when you say something like this is you're taking responsibility for what happened, okay? So, for example, you know, if you want, in that first scenario where you bump into somebody in the street, you can say, oh, that's my fault. Sorry, that was my fault. I wasn't looking. I was looking at my phone. If you want to be a little bit, you want to take more responsibility in your apology. Again, this is really good for those of you who are married. You want to admit you're wrong while you're saying you're sorry. Just saying sorry isn't enough. So, sorry, it was my fault. For example, if you're supposed to give somebody a ride, but you're late, and because you're late, they get to wherever they were going late. You tell the people they were supposed to meet, hey, sorry, we were late. It was my fault, okay? So the next one is when you want to, sometimes, people are talking about something and we just don't know anything about that topic. So we want to kind of apologize for lack of our knowledge. We say, please excuse my ignorance. Okay, you're just apologizing, I don't really know about this topic. Could you explain it for me? It's a very Canadian way of asking somebody to explain something for you. Us Canadians are famous for apologizing. It's one of the stereotypes. And, this expression, please excuse my, it can actually be used to talk about anything you want them to excuse. It's kind of like pardoning you. So please excuse my ignorance. Please excuse my carelessness. Please excuse my forgetfulness. So for example, with the ignorance one, if a bunch of our friends are talking about some new music band, or they're talking about some new movie that you don't know about, you say, please excuse my ignorance. Could you tell me about this, band or movie? Or for the carelessness one, if you accidentally, we go to the first scenario, bump into someone, please excuse my carelessness. I wasn't being careful. For forgetfulness, if you forget to call somebody, if you forget to do something, please excuse my forgetfulness, okay? The next expression we can use for apologizing is, please don't be mad at me. This is when you do something that you know it's going to make somebody angry. You tell them, please don't be mad at me. For example, if you borrow something from somebody and you forget to return it to them, you tell them, please don't be mad at me. I forgot to bring back your book, for example, okay? So whenever you do something and you don't want the person to get mad at you, this is really informal. We don't use this kind of language in a writing or at work or something like that. But with our friends, with our family, people we know, just in an everyday speaking, we can say, please don't be mad at me. I did something wrong, right? So please don't be mad at me. I forgot to water your plants. Now they're all dead. And, this is this is one way of breaking bad news as well as apologizing, okay? And the next one is, please accept our sincerest apologies. This is very formal. This is the kind of language you use in writing, especially for letters. If you're planning on doing your IELTS general exam, this is really good language to use, if you're writing a letter to apologize to somebody. The word sincerest is a very strong and very formal word, so please accept our sincerest apologies. It's a very strong word. It shows that you're very regretful for whatever happened. You can change this word sincerest. You can, just take it out. Just say, please accept our apologies. That's okay as well. It's very formal. It is very good for written. You're just changing the degree of your regret. You can just change it also with another word. You can say, please accept our deepest apologies, sincerest apologies, heartfelt apologies. All of these words work in this kind of sentence structure, and they're all very formal. So, if you want to talk, if you're at work and some of your clients or customers come in and you did something wrong, you want to apologize to them, you say, please accept our sincerest apologies. If you specifically did something wrong to them, you can say, please accept my sincerest apologies, or please accept my apologies, okay? When we say our, we're referring to the company, obviously. We're referring to just a very formal sort of setting. If it is specifically something you did, you can just say, please accept my apologies, or sincerest apologies, or deepest apologies. It depends how regretful you want to be. It depends how much you want to tell them you're sorry about something. And, this is a really good one to use for writing. Whenever you want to write something formal, this is the kind of language you should use, okay? All right, so I'm going to turn on comments. If you guys have any questions about any of these expressions, go ahead and ask them. I would like to remind you guys that, English or any other language is really dynamic. It's really alive. And that means that there are a lot of different words and expressions you can use to talk about anything for like apologizing or anything like that. Omid, where are you from? I'm Iranian Canadian. I'm originally from Tehran. I grew up in Vancouver, And right now I'm working in Tehran again. So if you guys have any questions about how to apologize, how any of these expressions we talked about, go ahead and ask them. I'm going to leave the comments open for a little bit. The next thing we're going to talk about, thank you very much, Negin. The next thing we're going to talk about is asking about health or life, okay? So we're going to talk about expressions we can use about that. How do you spell censors? Censors is with a C. Would you please save this? Yes, absolutely. We're going to save these live stories. I believe they're going to post them on YouTube as well. So you can also find them on the EnglishTurbo YouTube channel. But I'm going to save these stories so you guys can check them out later as well, okay? So if there are no questions about how to apologize, what kind of expressions we can use, we're going to, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll try to slow down. I'm sorry about that. That's my fault. I'll try to slow down a little bit. My reading course, Behzad, is, so basically in my reading course, I teach you guys about techniques, how to answer questions and things like that. In this live session, I'm going to focus on expressions. If you have questions about my reading course, you can send me a private message, okay? All right, so I'm going to close the comments again, and I'm going to talk about some expressions that we use for asking about somebody's health or somebody's life. These are very useful expressions. Please, if you have any questions, write them down and you can ask me afterwards. I'm going to turn on comments again, okay? So let's turn the comments off. All right, guys. So the next part, we're going to talk about asking questions about somebody's life or about their health. When we meet somebody we know, it's polite to ask them about, their health and life, right? This is a social convention. This is something that happens in Farsi and in English. There are a lot of different phrases for doing this in English. I'm just going to talk about 10 different ones, okay? So the first one, and this is the best known phrase in English language, everybody learns this when they're learning English, is how are you? When we ask somebody, how are you? We are basically asking them how their health is, right? It's very common, but something you should know is a lot of people who are native English speakers, they usually don't use this expression. They usually don't say, how are you? They use other expressions. So I'm going to teach you a couple of those so that you can sound more native-like when you speak English. So the next expression is, how are things? When we say, how are things, this is a general question about what the other person's health and life is. It's not just asking about, their life, it's asking about their health as well. So, when you answer, if somebody asks you, hey, how are things, man? You can talk about your health, you can talk about your life. So you can say, oh, I'm doing good. Or, I've been really busy at work, okay? So if you ask somebody, how are things? You see your buddy in the day, or you see your coworker at work. You say, hey, how are things going? Or how are things? And they can reply with, I had a great morning. Oh, I'm feeling good today. Something like that, okay? A very similar question and more informal is, how's things? How's things? When you see somebody, hi, how's things going? This is very similar to the last one. It's incorrect grammar, so it's very informal. So it's used for speaking, okay? In speaking, sometimes we use incorrect grammar, and it's okay. It's just informal. Very similar in the meaning. The next one is, how's it going? This is one I like to use myself a lot. And this is a very informal way of this is when you're talking to your friends, to your coworkers. How's it going? How's it going is, it's really a good way of just asking somebody about their life and their health in general. A more formal way of doing it is, how are you getting on? Okay, how are you getting on is a more formal way of saying, how's it going? And, You're basically asking them about their life when you say, how's it going? But they can also answer about their health, okay? So, if I haven't seen my friend for a while, I say, hey, how's it going, man? I haven't seen you for a while. And they say, yeah, I got a new job, or, I've been really enjoying my day today. I've been excellently, things like that, okay? So this one, how's it going? If you want to sound very casual with your friends or something like that, you can use this type of question to ask them about their life or about their personal health, okay? The next one is, how have you been? Now, when we ask somebody, how have you been? We are really asking them about their health, okay? So how have you been? We're asking them about their health, but the other person could answer with more general information. For example, if I know, if there's nothing going on with my health, I'm just doing okay, so normal. I can say, when somebody asks me, how have you been? I can say, oh, I got a new job, or hey, I bought a new car. So you can actually answer these questions with any of these information. But how have you been is generally asking about somebody's health. So if somebody was sick and you knew that they were sick, you can ask them, how have you been? Okay? This kind of question can be used when you haven't seen somebody for a while. So if I haven't seen my friend for a couple of months, a couple of years, I haven't seen my grandma for a couple of years, and I call them or I see them in the street, I can ask them, how have you been? I haven't seen you for a long time. How have you been? So this is a really good way of catching up with somebody. When we haven't seen somebody for a while, we say we catch up with them, okay? The next one is, what have you been up to? Very good way of asking somebody about what kind of activities, about their life, what kind of activities they have been doing. So the difference between these two questions, the first one was, how have you been? How have you been is for asking about their health usually. What have you been up to is to talk about their activities. What are you doing with your life kind of question. So if somebody asks you, what have you been up to? Or what have you been up to lately? They're mostly asking about the activities. But again, you can also talk about your health if you want to, okay? A lot of times, what have you been up to can be used to talk about people's hobbies. So what you do at home, not necessarily at work, but it can be used for both of them. You can, if somebody asks you, what have you been up to? You can just talk about your general life activities. If you're doing anything new, oh, I started reading a new book. Okay, something like that. That's how you can answer it. Or if you want to know just what somebody you haven't seen for a while. Again, this is another one of those questions. If you haven't seen your friend or your family for a long time, like a couple of months or a year or something like that, you can use this question to find out what they're doing lately, okay, what they're doing more recently, or what they have done since you last saw them, okay? And the next question is, when you know there's something wrong with somebody, you say, I hope everything's okay. So for example, if I hear that my grandma was sick, I give her a call and I say, hey, grandma, I hope everything's okay. How are you doing? I hope everything is okay. You're asking this in a question type of thing, right? So I hope everything is okay. Make sure it sounds like you're asking a question. This is one way of asking somebody, if somebody, for example, falls down, or if you see somebody has like a broken arm, they have a cast, or if you see something has happened to them, you say, hey, I hope everything is okay. Are you doing all right? This is what the next one I was going to talk about is, are you all right? This is really informal, hey, are you all right? If you see somebody fall down in the street, you go up to them, are you all right? You're asking them how they're doing, okay? You're asking them about their health. This is a lot more informal than, I hope everything is okay. I hope everything is okay is a lot more polite. It's very polite and formal. Just saying all right, are you all right, is a little bit more informal. It doesn't sound as sincere. So, if you want to sound more polite, you can just say, I hope everything's okay. So if I see somebody fall down in the street, I can go up to them and say, I hope everything's okay. Or, are you all right? Okay. The next one is, how have you been keeping? This is really formal a way of asking somebody about their general health and what they're up to. How have you been keeping? But it is still sincere and friendly, okay? So you're still being very friendly and sincere, but it is very formal way of asking about somebody's life and their general health. This is really good language if you're writing a letter, okay? So if you're writing a letter to your relatives, to your friend, to somebody you want to ask after, you say, how have you been keeping? How have you been keeping? And this is a very formal way of saying basically, how are you, or what have you been up to? How's it going? Any of these, okay? So I'm going to turn on the comments again. If you guys have any questions about how to ask people about their health or about their life in general, you can go ahead and put it here. Again, like I said before, there's a lot of expressions in the English language, so these aren't all of it. By no means are these the end of it. But these are the ones that I wanted you guys to be familiarize you with, and I hope you guys can find this useful to use later on. So if there are no questions about it, the next section we are going to talk about is asking for approval. Asking for approval, sometimes if we're not sure if something is a good idea to do, when we want to know somebody's opinion about doing something or something like that, you can use one of these phrases to ask for their approval. So are there any questions about asking for general life or anything like that? I'm sure you guys knew a lot of these before, so maybe it's a little bit of a review for you. No problem, Sogol and Honey. It's my pleasure. Yeah, I'll try to speak slower. I'm sorry, Badri, but I'll try to speak slower. Okay, so I'm going to start the next session, the next part of this session, I mean. This one is asking for approval. These expressions, like I said, when we want to know someone's opinion, when we want to know if something's a good idea to do, we can use this. 1 minute. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to turn off comments. If you guys have any questions, make sure you write them down and ask me afterwards, okay? Let's see, turning off comments. Here we go. All right, so when we want to see if something is a good idea to do or not, or when we want to just ask somebody's opinion about something, we can ask for their approval. So, for example, we can say, do you think it's all right to do something, to do it, to do that, okay? So, for example, if you guys want to ask somebody, if you can borrow their book. Do you think it's all right if I borrow your book, okay? Or if you want to ask somebody if it's okay to, for example, write something down. Do you think it's all right if I write this down, okay? This is it's a very, I wouldn't say it's necessarily formal, but it's not necessarily informal either. You can use this to ask for permission just in your everyday life, okay? The next one is, what do you think about? Now, what do you think about is a really useful phrase because you can use it to ask about anybody's opinion about anything, right? What do you think about cars? What do you think about pollution? In this specific case, when we are asking for approval, what do you think about me doing something? So, what do you think about me, taking the IELTS exam, for example? What do you think about me taking the IELTS exam? What do you think about going out tonight? Okay, so we're asking somebody's opinion. Specifically, we're asking, do they approve or do they disapprove of it? Okay, what do you think about me taking the IELTS exam. I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. I think you should study more. So this is a kind of question that asks for approval or disapproval. Just one more note about this expression, because it is very useful. You can use it to talk about anybody's opinion about anything, okay? So what do you think about, that movie we saw last night? What do you think about my favorite sports team, okay? So anything like that. And the next one, do you think I ought to do it? Do you think I ought to go out? Another word we can use for think is reckon. So do you reckon I ought to drink tea? This is a very informal way of, especially if you use reckon, if another person agrees or not. Whenever I use the word think, if you use reckon, it is more informal. Think itself is more formal. But you can use this, and I think it's used a lot in the Southern American states. So do you think I ought to do it? Do you think I ought to take the IELTS exam? Do you think I should do it or not? Do you reckon I ought to go out? Do you reckon I ought to eat lunch? I'm asking what your opinion is, and specifically, do you approve of it or disapprove of it? Do you reckon I ought to go out? No, I reckon it's a bad idea. There is the coronavirus out there. Don't go out. Okay. So the next one is, what would you say if I went out? So you're asking them, it's more of a hypothetical question. Whenever we ask hypothetical means it's imaginary, right? We're talking about something, some imaginary case. It hasn't happened. We're asking, what if this happens? That's hypothetical, okay? So anytime we ask something that is hypothetical, if it's imaginary, it is more formal, it is more polite, because we are saying that if you don't think it's okay, I'm not going to do it, okay? In the first three ways I talked about, we are basically saying, I'm going to do this. What do you think about it? With this question, what would you say if I did something? With this kind of question, it is more formal, it is more polite, because we're basically saying, if you're not okay with it, I'm not going to do it. Okay? Very good way of asking questions if you're in a relationship, if you're married, and you want to ask your spouse what their opinion is. What would you say if I cook tonight? Do you think it's a good idea if I cook tonight? What would you say if I visit my parents? Okay, so something like this. You're basically asking for their approval or disapproval. At the same time, you're asking if they give you permission. What do they think about it? Okay. And the next expression we can use is, would you approve of doing something? So just like the expression before, just like what would you say if I, would you approve of is also hypothetical. It is also imaginary. So it is more formal. It is more polite way of asking about someone's opinion or approval. So for example, would you approve of me cooking tonight? Would you approve of us visiting my parents? These are very formal way of asking. They're hypothetical, imaginary ways of asking, what someone thinks in this situation. They're a really good way of getting people's opinion, especially in a formal setting. So if you're talking to your boss and you want to see how they feel about your project, for example. So would you approve of moving up the deadline? You're basically asking your boss, are they okay with moving up the deadline? And it's a good way of asking it because you're implying, you're saying that if they think it's not okay, you're not going to do it, okay? All right, so the next expression that we can use is, what is your attitude to the idea of, or what is your attitude towards, okay? So when we ask about somebody's attitude, we're talking about their feelings, okay? We're talking about what kind of feelings they have about some kind of an imagined action. So for example, what is your attitude towards Persepolis, some football team? How do you feel about this team? What is your attitude towards Chinese food? What is your attitude to the idea of going to the movies? Something like this is hypothetical. You don't say what you're thinking yourself. You don't say, I want to do this. You're just asking about their attitude, their feelings about it. And this is an indirect way of asking somebody's approval or disapproval, okay? So when you don't want to be direct, when you don't want to be straight up asking somebody their opinion, you can use this kind of indirect question to ask them about their feelings about something you want to do, okay? Okay, the next one is, are you in favor of me doing something? So, are you in favor of me washing the dishes? Do you think it's a good idea if I wash the dishes? Are you in favor of us going out tonight? Do you think it's a good idea if we go out tonight? Are you in favor of is a really good way of asking people for approval, right? Because when somebody is in favor of something, they are approving of it. This is very similar to asking somebody about their attitude. It's a very indirect way of saying, what do you approve of, okay? So, are you in favor of doing some homework? Do you guys want to do some homework? This is a really good way of asking your spouse, what do you want to do right now? Instead of saying, hey, what do you want to do tonight? You say, what are you in favor of doing tonight? Okay, what do you think is a good idea to do tonight? The next one is basically it's the same question. Are you in favor of? You just add a tag question at the end of it. So tag questions, for those of you who don't know, is when you have a positive statement, at the end of it, you use a negative question to reconfirm the information. For example, you are in favor of Chinese food, aren't you? Aren't you? So when we ask somebody a tag question like this, we're confirming what we said at first. So if at the first part of the sentence I say, you are in favor of Chinese food, aren't you? So I'm asking, hey, you like Chinese food, right? That's something you like, isn't it? Right? So this kind of question is, it's very important when we're asking a tag question. Our intonation is really important because we're bringing emphasis on what we said at first. So we say, you are in favor of going out, aren't you? Aren't you? Pay attention to how I say it. Aren't you? So you're saying this with this specific intonation. You are bringing the intonation is falling on the first R and it's rising on the int you. Okay, aren't you? Okay, aren't you? So whenever we're asking tag questions, when we want to know if someone's in favor of something or not, this is the intonation you should use. The next expression is, do you think anyone would mind if I? This is an informal way of asking somebody's opinion, but it's a very polite way of deciding to do something. So for example, if you want to take a nap, you say, hey, do you think anyone would mind if I take a nap? I'm at a party, but I'm really tired and I just want to go sleep. Do you think anyone would mind if I play some music? What is your opinion? Do you think other people would be okay if I play some music, or do you think they would say it's too noisy? Do you think anyone would mind if I left early today? When you're asking your coworker for their opinion, what do you think? Is it okay if I leave early today? Do you think anyone would mind if whatever you want to do, Do you think anyone would mind if I eat the last slice of pizza, right? Do you think people would be okay with it, or do you think that they would not be okay with it? It's basically a polite way of asking, I want to eat the last slice of pizza. Do you think, would anyone mind if I eat the last slice of pizza? Okay. And the next one is when we want to talk about, when we want to say, ask somebody about something that we know is going to make them angry. When we want to ask them their opinion about something we know they don't like, we use this kind of language. So we say, would it be really awful if something happens? So if I think that my friend is going to be angry if I eat the last slice of pizza, I say, would it be really awful if I eat the last slice of pizza? Okay? Would it be really awful if I go outside? Would it be really awful if I took the rest of the day off? Okay? So when we think that the other person is going to be angry, we use this kind of language. So, would it be really awful if I don't do the dishes today? You think that your wife is not going to like it if you don't do the dishes today. You say, would it be really awful if I don't do them today? You're kind of asking for permission, but you think that they're probably going to say, yeah, it's going to be awful. Go do the dishes, right? So these are common expressions we can use for asking for approvals. I'm going to turn on commenting again. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them. The situations we ask for approval is when we want to confirm, when we want to know what we're doing is okay, we ask for someone's approval. Or when we want to just know somebody's idea about what we're going to do. When we want to know somebody's opinion about what we're going to do, we can ask for their approval or disapproval. We can ask for their opinion, okay? Do you guys have any questions about these phrases? If not, the next section, I'm going to talk about how to ask for help, okay? This is a really useful one, especially if you're going to visit other countries, if you're going to ask, you need to ask for directions, or you need to ask for people to help you out, or in general, if you're working and you need to ask some people to help you, if you're studying and things like that, these expressions, you can use them for help. Sorry, what did you say? I'm not sure exactly what you said there, Baddy, but I'm not going to do any lives right now because I just want to get through these expressions. Afterwards, maybe we can have a little bit more of a discussion. So, like I said before, for those of you who are joining me today, I'm starting to do an A to Z of common expressions in the English language. I'm going to do at least 10 for each of them. So I've separated these by topic, and I'm going from A to Z from the topics. Today, we're probably going to do some of the A's, and then on the next days, I'm going to try to get through all of them. I hope you guys find these really useful, okay? So if there's no questions about asking for approval, we're going to move on to asking for help, and this might be the last session we do, depending on how much time we have, okay? So I'm going to turn off comments again. Please go ahead and write down any questions you have if you have any questions, and ask them afterwards. I'm going to give you a chance to ask them. All right, so let's get started. So asking for help. Now, we all need help from time to time, right? And in the English language, it's usually not polite to ask directly, right? So for example, if we want to know what time it is, we don't just say, what's the time? It's more polite to add something before it so that, people aren't offended. These phrases I'm going to talk about is to soften, to make it more polite to ask for help, okay? So the first one is, can you give me a hand with this? Okay, if you're doing something and you need help with doing it, you say to your friend, to your coworker, hey, can you give me a hand with this? This is a really direct question, so it's more for informal, casual conversation because it's a direct question. It's not as polite, right? if you know your friend well, if you know your family, you can ask them, hey, can you give me a hand with this? I'm making food. Can you give me a hand with this? Okay. It is informal, so you should use this with your friends and family mostly. If you have a really good relationship with your coworkers, you can also use this. But if you want to be more polite, and this goes for any time you're using can, if you change can to could. So instead of saying, can you give me a hand with this? Say, could you give me a hand with this? Or could you help me for a second? Whenever we use could, we're being more polite, okay? Instead of can, we use could. It becomes more polite. So, could you help me for a second? This expression is a polite way of asking for help. It is, when we say for a second, it shows that we don't need a lot of help. It's not going to take too much time, and it shouldn't be too hard to do, okay? So for example, I need somebody to hold something for me for 1 second so I can open the door. I say, could you help me for a second? Could you hold on to this? If I need somebody to write something down, hey, could you help me for a second? Could you write this down, please? So whenever we just want to ask somebody to help us for a few seconds, for a minute or two, not for too long, and for something that's not too hard to do, we can use this expression. Could you help me for a second? It is a more polite way of just saying, can you give me a hand? Because we're using could, and because we're saying, for a second, we're being considerate about their time. So the next one that we usually use this a lot is, can I ask a favor of you? Okay, so can I ask you to do me a favor, or can I ask a favor? This is a very general way of introducing a request. So when you want somebody to do something for you and you want to, ask them to do it, you can use this to introduce it. So, can I ask a favor? Could you hold on to this for me, please? This is a way of asking them, hey, can you do this for me? It's very common in the English language between friends, even at a workplace, you can use this kind of expression. So, could you do me a favor? Can I ask you a favor? So, can I ask a favor? Could you pick me up after work today? Okay. This kind of language is really common to use. If you guys don't know it, write it down and start using it. It might be useful for you in your speaking test, not necessarily for IELTS, but it's very good language to use if you're planning to immigrate somewhere. So, can I ask a favor? Could you pick up the kids? Okay. And the next expression is, I wonder if you could help me with this. I wonder if you could help me with this. This is very polite, and it can be used with people you don't know very well, or even with your coworkers or your boss, at your job, okay? So if you want to be very polite, for example, if you're walking in the street and you need to answer your phone, but your hand is full, you look at someone, you say, hey, I wonder if you could help me with this. Give them your bag so you can answer your phone, something like that. It's when you're talking to a stranger, when you want to be polite with them. I wonder if you could help me with whatever I'm doing. Okay, so I wonder if you could help me with this puzzle. Okay, it's a really hard puzzle. I can't do it. Can you please help me? I wonder if you could help me with these directions. Something like that, okay? The next expression we can use is, I could do with some help, please. I could do with some help, please. Now, this is a very direct way of asking for help. You usually use this kind of expression if you need immediate help. I need help right now. Somebody come help me. I could do with some help, please. So when you want somebody to help you out, when you need help, it's a very strong way of asking for help. So if I need help right away, hey, I could do with some help, please. It doesn't matter what setting you use it with. You can use it with your friends. You can use it with your family, with your coworkers, with strangers. If you need someone to help you immediately, I could help. I could use some help. I could use some help. So, your friend comes in. He says, hey, how's it going? Are you making food? You say, yeah, I could use some help. Could you please check on the rice, So it's a very direct way of asking somebody for help. And usually if you need help immediately, this is the kind of language you should use, okay? The next expression is, I can't imagine. I can't manage. Can you help? I can't manage. Can you help? So when we say I can't manage, it means I can't do something. I'm not doing well, okay? Like I'm having some trouble. So I can't manage. Can you help? It shows that you have a problem that is too much for you to handle, okay? Whenever you're desperate for help, you can say this, oh man, I have an essay due tomorrow. I can't manage it. Can you help me, please? I can't manage studying alone. Can you help me, please? This kind of phrasing is usually when there is a problem that is too big for you to do by yourself. You can use this kind of phrasing. You can use this expression to talk about it, to ask for help, okay? So you can do this even at work. If you have a project you're working on and that's too much for you, you can go to your coworker and you can say, I can't manage this project alone. Can you help me, please? Okay? So I can't manage this by myself. Can you help me, please? Okay? The next expression is, give me a hand with this, will you? Give me a hand with this, will you? Or it's a direct request for help again. A more polite way of saying it is, lend me a hand with this, will you? Lend me a hand is an expression we use when we want to ask somebody to help us, okay? So we either say, give me a hand or lend me a hand. Give me a hand is less formal. It is informal or casual. Lend me a hand with this is more polite. So if you want to be more polite, you can say, lend me a hand with this, will you? Or give me a hand with this, will you? And you can use this when you're doing something and somebody's standing over there and you want to ask them for help. Hey, can you lend me a hand with this, please? Or give me a hand with this, will you? Okay, so whenever you're doing something in front of somebody, or you're doing something, somebody's around, you can ask them to come and lend you a hand with it. Okay. Or you can just talk about, something you're going to do. For example, can you please lend me a hand with fixing my car? I need to repair my car. I'm asking somebody to lend me a hand with it. Can you give me a hand with with taking the bags upstairs? Can you give me a hand, carrying my shopping bags upstairs? So you can use this kind of language to talk to your friends, to talk to your coworkers, to strangers. Any of them is okay. Now, the next expression is a really good expression to use when you want to be respectful to somebody's time. You can say, could you spare a moment? Could you spare a moment? Could you spare a moment? So when we ask somebody, could you spare a moment, we are showing that we respect that the other person is busy. Maybe the person is doing something, maybe the person has a job to do. So we're being respectful of their time. We say, could you spare a moment? For example, if you're going to another country and you want to ask somebody for directions, you want to ask somebody for help, you say, excuse me, could you spare a moment and show me where I can find the museum, okay? So you use this kind of question to soften your request for help, okay? Could you spare a moment and tell me where I can find McDonald's? So, it's a very polite and respectful way of asking somebody for help. If you want to be formal at work, you can also use this language. You can go to your boss and say, hi, could you spare a moment? I need to ask you some questions, okay? Your boss is a very busy person, so could you spare a moment? I have some questions. A very useful way of asking for help. It is also very common. It is a very polite way of doing it. If you know somebody is busy, this is the language you should use, okay? The next expression is, I need some help, please. It is very direct. It is very when you say this to somebody, usually you are telling them to help you, okay? So I need some help, please means, come help me. Usually your mom does this. Your mom says, hey, I need some help with the dishes. That means go wash the dishes. It doesn't give you the option to say no, okay? So if you want to tell somebody to help you, I need some help with this. I need some help doing the dishes. I need some help cooking. When you say something, when you use this phrase, you're basically telling somebody, hey, come help me. So it's a very direct way of saying it. You don't usually say this to people who are your boss or who you don't know very well. You say this to people who you can order around. You can tell them what to do. So, your parents used to do this when you were kids, or, if you have kids, you tell them to do it right now, right? You tell your kids, hey, I need some help with cleaning the house. Can you go clean your room? It's a very direct way of asking for help or just making a request. So if you want to tell somebody to do something, you can say, I need some help with, whatever you need to do, okay? So these are the expressions for asking for help. Obviously, there's a lot more. I'm going to turn on the comments again. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead and ask me. If you don't have any questions and you just have some feedback, you can go ahead and put that in right now as well. Thank you guys for joining me this morning. I'm really happy to have you guys here. I'm going to be doing this while we're in quarantine every day. So I'm just going to continue tomorrow with some more expressions. If you found this useful, please join me tomorrow again. I would love to have you guys here. I would love to have you spend the morning with me. If you guys haven't seen this schedule, I have highlighted it on my page, and I'm sure there's a lot of people advertising this right now. The next session is going to be by MG at 1 o'clock, I believe. So in an hour, please check that out. Take a look at the other instructors. There's a lot of good instructors with EnglishTurbo, and they have a lot of good live sessions. Qiyasi, yes, I can speak Persian, but my Persian isn't as good as my English. Nasim, I am Iranian Canadian. I was born in Tehran, but then I immigrated to Canada, so I grew up in Canada, and I grew up in Vancouver. If that answers your question, you speak very fast. I'm sorry, Mustafa. I'm trying to speak a little slower. I'll try to do better next time. I'm really sorry about that. We are going to post these videos. So if it was hard for you to hear me, maybe go watch it again. I apologize. I'll try to speak a little bit slower, Mustafa. Thank you, Sololi, for joining me today. Thank you guys very much. It was really cool to do this. I hope you guys find these useful. If you have any feedback, feel free to send me a message or anything like that. I don't know when the video will go on YouTube, but I'm going to post it on the page right now, I think. We'll see about that. And yeah, Zan, I'll try more slowly. Sorry, I will be more slow. Okay. Yes, I will save the live, guys. So thanks a lot, guys. Make sure you catch MG's live session at 1 o'clock and take a look at the schedule and, go ahead and watch all their lives. Thank you, Vaji Momenzadeh. I'm happy that you found this session to be full of keywords. I'm going to save it and catch me again tomorrow, okay? I don't know what that word means. How much time do I need to speak like you? Most of it depends how much you practice speaking, so try to speak a lot. I know it's hard to do it when you're in Iran and everybody speaks Farsi, but just try to practice your speaking, and you're going to get better. I promise you, the more you practice, the faster you improve, okay? Yes, I will try to speak more slowly tomorrow. I promise you guys, I'll try to do this. It's a little bit hard for me, but I will absolutely try my best, okay? So have a good day, guys. Please take care of yourselves. Stay safe. And I will see you guys tomorrow, okay? Take care of yourselves.